I'm gonna have to come say hi.
Yes, you will.
Oh,
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to admin. Juanita, what time do you need to leave?
I'm set. I think Josh is the one who's coming late.
Oh, okay. I misinterpreted the message then.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that being the case, let's just roll right in. Is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda? See none. Let's roll right into our action items. We begin with a couple from John Stegmeyer. First, dealing with approval of expenditure of up to $200,000 in 2014 County Parks and Trails Bond Funds.
Good morning. It's actually Juniper Davis this morning.
Oh, hi, Juniper.
Yeah, no problem. Hi. So yeah, manager of Parks, Trails, and Open Lands.
That's right. Is John no longer with us?
It's a transition period right now. So he's
okay.
We have a new hire coming on soon, and he's going to help do a little bit of training, but he is kind of in a transition period. We're sad to lose him, but again, excited for his new opportunity. Yep. So I'm carrying these couple of items forward for you today. And this one I'm going to give a little bit more background on than I'm going to give on the second one, which is a little more straightforward. So as you're aware, as recommended by our County Parks and Trails Advisory Board at a public meeting back in March, we are requesting that the board approve expenditure of up to $200,000 of 2014 County Parks and Trails bond funds for a one-time purchase of equipment to maintain county trail and park facilities. So again, I just want to give a little bit of background on this one because it's an important one for our program. So Missoula County regularly receives requests from the community to do more consistent seasonal maintenance to keep our shared pathways safe. The county maintains about 40 plus miles of a network of paved pathways, and we've been contracting seasonal snow removal as well as mowing and sweeping for the past 4 years. And we have a funding limit of about $40,000 each year. And with that, we can allow up to 11 plow events throughout the course of the winter. And as a result of that cap and that number of plow events, we have to limit the amount of snow plowing we do to events where we have 2 inches or greater of snow. And sometimes at the end of the season, we actually run out of budget and we can't authorize any additional plowing even after an event of 2 inches or more. So letting snow sit on those trails creates this packed and icy condition, and it's a safety concern, but it also just simply limits the use of those trails in the winter. So we have, and I should mention, we have a similar limitation with the sweeping and mowing as well. So with that being said, we've been trying to figure out how we can increase our level of service for our pathways throughout Missoula County. The acquisition of 2 Bobcat Toolcat utility machines and the transport trailers to add to our county fleet would allow us to be more frequent and consistent in our snow removal, as well as the mowing and the sweeping. So the it's really hopefully a net positive for Missoula County and for our maintenance of our shared use paths. So staff of the Parks, Trails, and Open Lands program and County Public Works have been developing this plan for well over the past year to transition our pathway maintenance in-house. Public Works has been a really supportive internal partner on this, and they have offered to complete the purchase. They will operate the equipment and they'll store it at no additional cost to our program. And at some future date, if our program builds out our maintenance branch, which we're looking to do, we could kind of reacquire this equipment from Public Works and utilize them within our own program. But until then, this partnership is really essential to carrying out this initiative. So I'm just wrapping things up here, and I just want to emphasize again that our County Parks and Trails Advisory Board did recommend this back in March, and lending additional support for this is also a recent Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails Needs Assessment that we did back in 2018 that found that, I have it here, I think it's 73% of respondents to that survey selected better maintenance of paved trails as either their first or second maintenance priority among the facility options presented. So with that, I'll just leave it to you all for any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Juniper. Any questions, Juanita?
No, so the operation is done by Public Works. Is that what you were saying, Juniper? And then,
Oh.
and operate as needed. So there's no restriction to when it needs to be plowed, swept, or mowed.
Yeah, exactly. We really anticipate that we'll have a much higher level of service, that Public Works has the staffing, they have the storage space, and they have the maintenance expertise to manage the equipment. And with them operating it, we should be able to get out more quickly to address snow events even below 2 inches, or, you know, more than 11 times a year, more or less. They'll have to do some inner workings themselves to assess, you know, how they schedule this with the road maintenance that they also need to do. It might mean that the trails get to the trails the next day, but nonetheless, it will be increased level of service, both in quantity and in terms of responsiveness as well. So we're really optimistic.
Thanks. And and Public Works has the trailers to haul the equipment.
We're getting a trailer.
The trailer is part of this. So again, it's kind of a up to 200,000. We have a quote that's attached to this agenda item, so the public can see what we're looking at, but it will be up to 200,000 and hopefully the purchase of the 2 tool cats and 2 trailers.
Okay, thanks. Okay, any other questions?
No, I just saw Josh got
I'm
on.
here. Yeah.
Okay, Josh, we're just taking action on item number 1, which is the expenditure of parks and trails bond funds for the equipment that we talked about previously.
Yeah. I'm excited. I think it's a good idea.
So I moved to approve the expenditures of up to 200,000 for the
I'll
purchase of one-time purchase for equipment.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Juniper. Second item, Juniper.
Yep, you're not rid of me yet. So this is a very straightforward landscaping field season contract that we hope to enter into with Black Mountain Lawn and Landscape. This will just be for the 2021 field season. It will cover landscaping, and essentially that includes blowouts of the irrigation system, getting the irrigation system up and running, and then mowing throughout the summer. And the parks that will be covered by this particular contract will be Canyon View and Cottage Parks. Both of those have funding through RSIDs. And so the funding for this contract will use that as its source. The total is $3,686.
Where's Cottage Park? I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, Cottage Park is a small little park within the city limits. I can't tell you the exact street name right now, but it's just east of Reserve. A small little pocket park in a quiet little neighborhood.
It sounds like a good park to unload at some point, maybe. Yeah.
It's one on the list, indeed.
Okay. Any other questions? Would
No,
someone
this
like to make a
doesn't-
motion?
All right. I gotta read it here. I would move the board approve the PSA with Black Mountain Lawn and Landscape.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Juniper.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Juniper.
All right, next we have the DUI Task Force Annual Plan, and Lisa Biskevich or Steve Schmidt, I'm assuming, will be presenting this.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. Thank you for having us today. And yes, I have Steve Schmidt with me today, who really is the leader of the DUI Task Force. So I thought that he could share a few highlights for our plan for fiscal year 22. Steve, are you with us?
Yep, I'm on here.
Okay.
So primarily the major plan for fiscal year 2022 would be to continue the education of the importance of driving sober throughout our community. Right now, as it stands, our current stats statewide, we've had 77 total fatalities in Montana on our roadways, and 35 of that 77 are related to DUIs or driving impaired. So it's a very big issue in Montana, and it seems like, the numbers are getting worse. I don't know if that was just a result of the pandemic, but hopefully we see a turnaround. For example, this time last year, we only had 36 fatalities on Montana roadways, and now we stand at 77. So it's a pretty big issue. So continuing that education and awareness of the problem for DUIs, getting things like our Think Twice straws into local establishments that serve alcohol, so people understand the idea or the concept of blood or breath alcohol content. Also increasing our responsible alcohol sales and service training, which sort of was put on hold during the pandemic. So we're looking to increase that a little bit more as well. And the creation of a program for young drivers called Young Drivers in Control is a big component of this, where I'll have an opportunity to create an online course to be able to reach students, whether they're in school, out of school, homeschooled, or in a non-traditional classroom sort, where they could take this online course to learn about basically safe driving behaviors. And the entire goal of this is to just hopefully change the culture of impaired driving here in Montana and Missoula specifically.
And how is this shared with schools or parents or folks who are homeschooling? Like how did they find out about it?
Oh, well, the plan or the Young Drivers in Control program is currently in development, but once that is completed, it can be shared primarily on our website, and of course, it'll be free of charge for all students to take. It could also be assigned to students as either homework within, the health programs of schools, within driver's ed classes. Could also be assigned by the course, similar to the Alive at 25 program that the Highway Patrol class does right now. So.
And I would also add that some of the funding for that program is from State Farm Insurance. So it could potentially come through State Farm Insurance to be required, for a discount on insurance rates, potentially. So, and the goal, the time frame for getting this done, Steve, is fall of 2021.
That's correct.
So, okay, that sounds good. And I just briefly wanted to mention that our budget looks a little bit different this year, in the sense of we've really decreased some of the outreach and communications and expenses with the DUI task force, because we've seen a large reduction in our reinstatement fee dollars with the program. So in order to preserve Steve's work at 20 hours a week and continue the goals and focus of the program, we've just cut back on our expenses. And we'll apply for a State Farm grant in this fall to continue the work to supplement the DUI task force as well. And then the Responsible Alcohol Sales and Service Program, Steve will be starting to do classes with the RAS training next month with the KOA as your first one. So as we slowly, reopen up into the community, we'll be doing more education and outreach throughout the county. So,
and how many establishments are you hoping to reach or get to participate?
That's a great question. There's several different trainers within the county, so I'm not sure exactly how many other trainers will be reaching out. I know like Ethan Smith with the police department does a lot of training. Oftentimes they just come to us asking for that training. My predecessor, Lonnie Hutchinson, had a really big network and did some routine training every single month. So I'll probably set something up very similar to that. And an establishment might just send one or two people in. they're required to have the training every 3 years and within 60 days of employment. So hopefully we'll just get, a consistent flow of people into that training to help with the budget aspect of things.
Great. Oh, Dave, you're muted.
Lisa or Steve, could you refresh our memory as far as how the reinstatement fee piece of your funding works?
Sure. The most of the funding for the DUI task force comes from the reinstatement fees for driver's licenses. So if somebody gets a DUI and they need to reinstate their driver's license, half of that fee goes to the state fund. The other half of that fee goes to the DUI task force in that county. We've seen a very significant decrease in the funding, which I believe you can see on page 12 of the plan. Typically, I've had anywhere from, I would say in the last couple of years, anywhere from $13,000 to $17,000 per quarter of funding that would come into the DUI task force. This last quarter, quarter number 2 for 2021, my funding was only $5,900, and I believe it's going to be very similar for quarter number 3. And other counties around the state, I know I've spoken with the Gallatin County DUI Task Force coordinator, and she has indicated that her numbers are very similar. So,
Yeah, thanks. I just wonder if this is the best way for these programs to be funded. But that's a broader conversation than what we're dealing with today.
Well, we're happy to have the conversation at a future date and this next year, maybe halfway mid-year budget conversation, see where we're at and how it's going.
I think that would
That
be
would be
really
great.
helpful. Yeah, maybe we could do some problem solving and planning around this. It's such a big issue.
Okay. I will put that on the calendar
Thanks,
to
Lisa.
check in. Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay. So are there any other questions?
No.
Any other questions?
No, I move that the board approve the fiscal year 2022 DUI task force annual plan. Looking forward to catching up.
Perfect. Well,
We're not there yet, Lisa.
I
There's
know.
my- there was my-
Hold back.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Lisa.
great day.
Yep. Okay, we now have a few board appointments. Kyla, do you want to walk us through these?
Sure. The first one is for the Evero Finley O'Keefe Community Council. We have 2 vacancies. Megan Ryan submitted a letter of interest, has served 1 term, and is eligible for reappointment. The motion requested is to reappoint Megan Ryan to a new 3-year term of June 1st, 2021 through May 31st, 2024 to the Evero Finley O'Keefe Community Council.
Are they even meeting these days?
I was gonna say, I thought this was a pretty sleepy community council.
They have not been able to meet due to lack of membership.
Okay, well, I guess this is one person.
Yeah.
But
is there-
Megan's been there for a while, right? Yeah. And I believe she used to serve on the Open Lands Committee, correct? Did we know?
Oh, great.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure on that.
Okay.
I wonder if there's something we could do in terms of reaching out to folks in that area that we have not yet done to kind of populate this. What's
Yep.
the name of the isn't there a bar, convenience store, kind of top of the hill?
Bucksnort.
If there's a bar. Well, maybe we could talk about this at CAPS. This has
Yeah.
chronically been a not an active community council. And it's hard to gauge whether that's just general lack of interest or folks just not aware of this being a viable opportunity. So,
Right.
okay, we'll talk more about that. Are you feel okay with reappointing Megan?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll move to reappoint Megan.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Swan Valley Community Council. Now, we just interviewed someone. was it yesterday? This week.
Yes,
It was
the new-
yesterday.
Yep, the new applicant is Jesse Arno, who you interviewed with yesterday.
Not related to Matt Arno.
Oh, I was just gonna ask.
Yeah.
He
How
says he
long-
gets it all the time.
How long was the application period open, Kyla?
30 days,
And this was the only applicant.
the only applicant. The current member who is resigning helped recruit this member and talk to the board about this new applicant as well.
Okay.
But
Josh,
yeah,
it
there's,
was just Juanita and I on that.
I wasn't present.
Yeah, he seemed like a fine person who's been active in the community. It's
Yeah.
always comes down to the question of, do we feel good enough about this individual to go ahead and appoint him without any other folks in the applicant pool?
I mean, the recommendations from, his recommendations were solid. I mean, those are former community members or present community or council members, and his children in the area, lifelong resident, and wants to get involved with his community at this level. And I feel he said he was ready to step into this position, so I feel good about it, Jesse.
Okay,
So I guess that'll be my motion to appoint Jesse Arno to the Swan Valley Community Council. Oh, and I'm sorry, are there two here? Are we doing Kathy?
there's 2 vacant terms that end May 31st, 2021. And Kathy Coors submitted her letter of interest, has served 1 term and is eligible for reappointment. So there's 2
Okay.
motions, one to reappoint Kathy Coors, and the other motion is to appoint the new applicant, Jesse.
Thank you.
Arno.
Sorry, Kyla. So I motion to reappoint Kathy Coors and appoint Jesse Arno.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll trust you all and second that.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next, Kyla.
The next one is for the East Missoula Rural Fire District. Greg Seitz' term expires May 31st, 2021. He has submitted his letter of interest, has served 2 terms, and is eligible for reappointment. The motion before you is to reappoint Greg Seitz to a new 3-year term of June 1st, 2021 through May 31st, 2024 to the East Missoula Rural Fire District.
So Kyla, here's a question. With the fire district, so these are elected positions, are they not?
They
What
are.
happened here? Did this person just miss the deadline to?
Yes. And he
To get
mentioned
his name on
such
the
as
ballot?
in his appointment letter that he erroneously missed the deadline for the election period.
Okay. Well, what do you think?
You know, after our visit yesterday, I feel even more grateful that these people volunteer to serve on these boards and help our rural fire district. So this person is willing to do it again in the absence of others. I would move to appoint Mr. Seitz.
Sites. And it's
Sorry.
his 3rd. He's a committed member.
He
This
knows
is
what
his
he's
3rd
doing at this point. Yeah.
term. So second.
Any further discussion on the appointment? Seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thanks, Kyla.
Thank you.
Okay, any correspondence we need to deal with other than what we know about already? Okay, discussion items. I believe this is probably yours, Emily Brock, Courthouse Lawn Summer Programming.
So Dave, I'm going to introduce this and then hand it to Emily for specifics,
Okay,
if you all are all right with that. So because of the literal geography of my office, I get the view of the courthouse lawn, which I know a lot of you have heard about ad nauseum at this point. But for those who have not heard about it, I'll tell you now, what I see on nearly every day where the weather is good enough to sit outside is a lot of folks congregate on the corner of Ryman and Pine Street by the post office. And a lot of these are folks who are staying at the pub or otherwise unsheltered, and they stay and hang out on this space for a couple of reasons. One is it's safe. No one is going to harm you sitting in this very public place. Another one is there's access to public bathrooms. Another reason is you can get on the bus and go somewhere easily. These folks, I've watched them sitting out here. They pick up their garbage and throw it in the garbage can. They behave, for the most part, really well, but there's a lot of people, and it changes the culture of this space. And for people walking by, I often make a wide berth trying to get over to Tyler's shop or going around to get to the post office box. And we have this large chunk of public space in the middle of a very vibrant downtown that is unused because it has only one sort of cultural flavor to it. And what we're hoping to do is add uses without displacing any uses to this space and make it more broadly appealing to the public. This is a beautiful piece of lawn in the middle of a vibrant downtown. There's the kind of the problem statement. How do we make this welcoming to the people that are currently using it and also welcoming to other folks? So I brought this problem up with Anne, and Anne wisely said, well, I know somebody on our staff who can just make things happen and can create events and transform spaces, and that's Emily Brock. So then we handed this to Emily, and Emily's here to talk about what the solution to that problem is.
Emily,
there you go, Emily. There's you're teed up.
Tell us the solution.
Well, these spaces it won't just program itself. Maybe eventually it'll be a smooth operation that doesn't need help from staff, but at this point it needs to be managed. And so there's a couple ways that we're looking at this. One is low-hanging fruit, maintenance, picking up dog poop, doing a better job with putting up picnic tables, making sure they're clean and sanitary, and just creating a space that just sort of says, like, you can come. Another is the second tier is really programming the space. So actually inviting people to the space and having ways for them to participate and use it. And then the third is really infrastructure improvements, like major infrastructure improvements, like fixing the seat wall. And we would have to have some kind of planning process around that. I know there's already been a lot of work that's been put into renovating the courthouse on the inside. And so if we had those, major changes on the outside, we'd have to have some kind of a public process. So we thought we would kind of tackle it, the low hanging fruit. And I've been working closely with Jason Hauser on that, and he's been super supportive. And so we're working on ways that we can just have it be more sanitary and managed a little better. And then also working with Whitney Meeks, our wellness coordinator, and Jason Hauser on the middle tier, the programming piece. And one of the most obvious things that we want to do is invite people to come have lunch on the lawn. And so we would like to invite food trucks, a couple food trucks to be there, just two, on Mondays and Thursdays on the lawn. And so Mondays we'd really try to market this to county employees, and this is the wellness piece, to come outside and eat together. And then, of course, the community's welcome too. And then on Thursdays, we would like to have a more facilitated program, or I should say it's actually not a facilitated in the sense that there's no speeches or anything, but it's an idea called the Longest Table, and it's happening in other communities, and it's a place for civil discourse that helps people sort of recognize and be aware of the humanity in their adversaries. And so, in sort of fitting with the Justice Courthouse theme, we want to host a lunch on Thursdays that brings together people who hold opposing views on important issues. And they could be a range of issues. And so we imagine it would be unfacilitated in the sense that there's no speeches, there's no sort of program in that way, but what we do have is volunteers acting as hosts, kind of like a private party, introducing people to each other, and then folks sit down together and all they do is eat. And there's going to be a little prompt on the table that helps them break the ice. But it's not a political prompt. It's not, it's really about, you know, their lives and their families and, you know, really a social prompt. And so that we're hoping to do on Thursdays. We think that we have some partners for that lined out. And then sort of the third use is, and this is the wellness piece that it just kind of, you know, fell into place that Whitney Meeks was working on creating these outdoor meeting spaces because of COVID. And so, you know, not only are outdoor meetings safer than indoors right now, but spending time outside is good for overall health in general. And so we'll provide picnic tables and shade and encourage our employees to use the lawn for their in-person meetings. And then of course, neighboring businesses are also welcome to use the outdoor meeting spaces. And we're hoping to invite some nearby camps to use the lawn for classroom space. And so the big piece here will be monitoring the tables for cleanliness and waste management. I have reached out to some of the people who are going to be affected by the project. So I talked to Scott Bilodeau from Liquid Planet, and then I talked to GLR, and Ethan from Golden Yoke has probably been our strongest supporter. He's just been amazing and been a really great voice for making sure that we don't displace people who are currently using the lawn. I reached out to elected officials and judges in the courthouse, and you know, we've talked to the city of Missoula. I'm going to meet with the Downtown Association, the Master Plan Implementation Committee on June 10th. Had some conversations with City Club around helping us with the longest table piece, and then reach out to Zach, and I haven't actually spoken to them yet, but in some of the other camps or nonprofits downtown who are hosting camps. And so I think this year we're just going to really try to tackle it in terms of a simple program. The only major change is that we do have to have some power outlets put into the courthouse. And so Jason Hauser's been helping me with that. This is for the food trucks, so they don't have to use their generators. And so Jason's been helping me figure out how to do that in a way that doesn't that works for the courthouse. And so there is a map on the agenda. It just kind of shows that the food trucks, there'll be 2 food trucks, and they'll be on the east side of the building, right out. You'll be able to see them from your office, Josh. And there is a cost associated with that. And so I think today, Chris just wanted us to have a conversation and see if there were any concerns and kind of dip our toe in the water. And then if you guys are supportive, next week, there'll be an action item. The work would include, and Jason jump in here, but the work would, you know, if I say something wrong, the work would include cutting through the concrete and then adding those electrical outlets. And we did get some quotes on it. And that project will probably cost, it'll cost under $10,000. And then we have a little budget for maintenance, and also in case the sod gets disturbed, I put in a pretty big padding for that if we have to replace it at the end of the season. And then some.
Emily,
Yep.
let me finish right here. So what would be disturbing the sod? Are the food trucks actually up on the lawn?
Yeah. Do you see the map on?
Yeah, I just didn't know whether to interpret that literally or figuratively in terms of the power outlet. So the trucks would be up near the building.
Yep.
On the lawn.
Ah, thank you for saying that, Dave. I just assumed that was power outlet for food truck and the food truck was on the street, but no, I got it now. Thank you.
Yeah, so food trucks are not allowed on the street in downtown Missoula. And that is because they compete with the brick and mortar businesses who have invested in downtown. And so we could get around that by getting that waived. But when I reached out to GLR and some of the neighbors, they're very concerned about using up parking spaces. And
Right.
so this whole program will be on the lawn and contain on county property.
Interesting.
And this is, this is a pilot. We're going to do this and learn.
Yeah, and we definitely haven't worked out all the kinks. I'm sure there,
Yeah.
This is a conversation today. So if you have concerns or if you have ideas, anything like that, feel free to bring it up or shoot me an email. Right now or next week, we will be bringing a budget amendment. Chris will be bringing a budget amendment to you because we do need to get going. It'll take about 6 weeks from the time you approve the budget for us to get the power installed. And so we do need that to move forward. But anything else is totally flexible and negotiable at this point. And I don't think, like one thing that we want to avoid is competing with Out to Lunch in Cares Park. We don't want to recreate the wheel or compete with existing businesses. But there is a sense from the neighboring businesses that sort of a rising tide lifts all boats, and this will be good for the energy in the area and will improve their business.
So Jason Hauser, I had a question for you. Is this electrical outlet installation, is this something we could do in-house, or do we need to contract it out?
We are doing it in-house. Jason,
Oh, we are? Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard contracted out. Sorry about that, Jason.
That's fine. And to go back to the lawn, we'll do our best to preempt of any damages by laying down like a plywood platform for them to drive on and things like that. So that'll come and go every time the food trucks come. We'll move in and out plywood for them to drive on just to protect the lawn. But there is, as Emily said, there's a potential for some issue there, but I think we'll be able to manage that pretty easily.
Is the electrical line item, if we're covering the labor, is that materials that we're looking at there, or does that encompass your folks' labor also, Jason?
No, so what that is that's actually a contracted price out. We can do it for, we'll save about $1,000 to $2,000 in labor if my guys do it, but my guys right now are scheduled out to that 6 weeks. If we want to try and jump on it sooner, we do the contracted price, which is the money Emily's talking about. Sorry for the miscommunication, Emily. That could be done within the next 2 weeks. So a contractor could get done a lot faster than my guys. I just have 2 of them and they're hopping pretty hard. So yeah, so we can save a little bit of money on that if we run that in-house. Yeah.
Thanks. And while we're talking about line items here, what's entailed in the dog poop pickup line item? I didn't realize there was that much dog poop out there, but
there's a lot.
I can tell you this from watching out my window. Plenty of people who have dogs with them at work in this general area use the courthouse lawn, and a lot of them are very conscientious, but not all of them are. And I want to get to witness this.
So are we hiring someone to go out there and remove said dog feces, or what does the $600 amount to?
It's for twice a week, and I just put it's $50 a week to go out twice a week. Is that right, Jason?
Yes.
50, but I budgeted it for the whole summer.
Okay.
And just to clarify too, the CWs that do the lawn care for us, they do some pickup. Sorry. They do some pickup, but they do miss it, and that's some of the stuff that the dog company would come through and maybe follow behind. So they'll, as they mow and they go through that whole process, they do pick up, and but again, they don't get it all of it. It's the CWs, and they do the best that we can get out of them. So
And I'm wondering if we may have a kind of a self-perpetuating prophecy kind of thing going on here, with good following good, and that people start using this space, and then the folks who bring their dogs to work at some other business around here and bring them over there might feel like, oh, geez, I better pick this up. There's all these people around there watching me. I'm not going to just be an unconscientious dog owner. So bringing more use to the space may actually discourage some of the less conscientious dog ownership we see.
And you can yell at people from your balcony, Josh.
Yeah. Remember the other day, Juan, you and I were standing there. Whew, there was a security guy attending someone we weren't sure if he was sleeping or if he was dead. And we had to yell out and find out.
So I think that there's going to be a lot that we learn this summer. So in terms of, we might end up going the route with signage We might, there's just going to be so much that we learn from our experience this summer. But you're right, we want to change the culture and have it be eventually a little bit better self-maintained. But for now, we have to be aggressive in our maintenance. And the truth is, if we decide to do this moving forward, it's not just going to be. It's not just something that we can absorb into. Jason and I can totally absorb in our operations indefinitely. We can do it this summer to get the lay of the land and to be there, but there could be, we might need another CW to be checking cleaning the tables all the time. That's work, and so this summer we're good, but we're going to learn a lot, and the program is going to evolve.
Talk about the mural, Emily.
So this is just a marketing idea. It might not pan out, but and it's not a real mural. It's actually a banner, but it's not in a sense that it's not permanent. But we would put it up for the summer on the side of the annex, and it would advertise the space. It would communicate what it would go across the entire building. It would communicate what we want it to. We'd work with the county communications on it, it could talk about it could highlight the longest table idea if that pans out, and civic discourse, or it could highlight the lawn itself. So it just seemed like a really easy way to do a lot of communication about the courthouse lawn right there, that would get a lot of attention, and it would just be hung for the summer. But it's not been designed or anything like that yet. So
I love the idea of something on that building. The charitable way to describe that building would be in the brutalist architecture style. I call it more the butt ugly architectural style, but anyway, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
hoping, Emily, we could have
Ann Hughes isn't here to defend it.
brutalism.
She has a soft spot for
East Germany. I think it's a generational thing.
Well, and I will say that there's, we do have to be, we're trying to tread lightly, because there has been a huge effort and a lot of money put into the courthouse renovation. And so a lot of decisions were made with a lot of smart people making them. And we do have the tendency to kind of come in and second guess them or reinvent the wheel, and so I just want to be careful about that and make sure that we're touching base with them. There's some things that we would like to, like Whitney and I would like to push forward more. Like the county employees have really asked for better bike parking at the courthouse. But when decisions were made that didn't go with the historic, not to do that because of the historic piece or something like that. So there's a lot going on that we don't totally understand, and we're trying to tread lightly and not offend anyone.
It might be good to have a bike rack here for the summer, so if somebody bikes over for lunch, they have a place to put their bike.
Well, the county employees don't have enough bike parking right now for the courthouse, and they complain about that. But there's.
I think I park my bike illegally every morning. It's probably back to me.
I'm confident we can figure this out, and someone might still be offended, but
we will forge ahead. These are totally surmountable obstacles.
I didn't think you were parked illegally, John. I'm copying you, so
I'm a little nervous.
Now I'm curious about my own status. Sorry.
I'm waiting for somebody to trust me on that.
Oh.
All right. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks for all this work. You made tons of headway in such a short amount of time and brought partners to the table. Really, really great effort.
Thanks. Hopefully we don't, I'm, like I said, I don't want to make people who have been working on the courthouse for a long time have meetings that they already had 5 times. And so.
We're not going to do that. Yeah. And this is outside, not inside. The heavy lifting's long been done.
Yeah, I would agree. I've been in this conversation for a long time too, and I think what we're talking here is not out of keeping with the overall goals. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Jason, for your help too.
Anytime. Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Anything related to COVID? Our standing item on the agenda. Anything else that we need to discuss today? All right, we are done before the top of the hour. So thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Bye.